A rising tide lifts all boats. If you've heard this axiom before, it's probably because everyone has heard an axiom like this at some point, and the reason why is because they tend to be true. And I think that Nintendo's success is a rising tide that is going to lift all the boats of handheld gaming systems pretty much everywhere. And I think that this is a really good thing. You see, Nintendo just shipped 10.4 million units of Nintendo Switch 2 in just 4 months, which is an absolutely crazy, blistering pace. I'll get to comparing that to other launches in a little bit, but that's really fast, and Nintendo's doing exceedingly well. They got to be really, really happy with these numbers. And you know who else is going to be happy with these numbers? Developers. Developers have been working towards targeting handhelds for a while now. It started with the Nintendo Switch. In more recent days, we've seen companies like Larian Studios target Baldur's Gate 3 directly at PC handhelds like the Steam Deck. But because the Nintendo Switch is so popular, because so many people have these in their houses, devs are not going to be able to resist putting games on this system. And the great thing about that is that it's a low-powered system, just like every other handheld PC out there, because handheld gaming is always going to be about compromise in some way. You can't run enough power through these systems. You have to worry too much about heat. You have to worry about battery life. And because of that, usually you have to make sure that you tone everything down. I think these days, graphics have gotten to a point now where even the bad graphics look pretty damn good. And because of that, the compromises don't feel so jarring. When you go back and you look at something like the Nintendo Switch 1 running Doom 2016, which I have to admit is a crazy feat of wizardry that id Software was able to get that running on a Nintendo Switch 1, but they did it. It didn't look great, but it ran and people were able to play it. Well, now that the Nintendo Switch 2 is a lot more powerful than the Switch 1, and devs are used to porting their games to handhelds at this point, I think having 10.4 million Nintendo Switch 2s out there just further cements the fact that a huge swath, is that a word? A huge section of the video game audience is people who want to play on handheld devices like Nintendo Switches and Switch 2s. And because of that, I think that we're going to see some really, really great improvements in what's going to happen on the handheld side of things, not just on Switch 2, but across the entire industry. But Nintendo made lots of other improvements to the Nintendo Switch 2 that weren't just about power. But one thing that they didn't improve is the comfort. Okay, that's not fair. It's a little bit more comfortable than the original Nintendo Switch. But you know what makes it even more comfortable? The sponsor of today's episode, Satisfye. I have a ton of handheld gaming devices here in the NerdNest. The one that is the least ergonomic is the Nintendo Switch 2. That's because Nintendo made it flat. I love Nintendo games, but I wish my Nintendo Switch 2 felt like a Steam Deck with big curvy grips that made it easy to hold on to. And that's where Satisfye comes in. They're already known for making really nice grips, and they sent over their Zen Grip 2, which I want to show you how it works with a Nintendo Switch 2. It's really, really easy. First off, you just set your Nintendo Switch 2 in there, pick it up like you would be playing a game, and then just use your index fingers and pull down on it until it is now at the bottom. And it just looks really, really sleek and nice. I love the color match between the black and the black on the Switch 2. If we flip it over, you can see that you still have access to the kickstand, which I think is incredibly important. The sides and back of the Zen 2 grip make it really easy for you to hold the Nintendo Switch for a really long time because it's putting the weight of the system on your palms rather than on your fingers. And you might be thinking, okay, well, what if I want to take my Nintendo Switch with me? This isn't going to fit in a case. Yes, it will, because here we have the case from Satisfye. And if I open this puppy up, you can see that it has cutouts, little grooves that are already built specifically for this. We have a little felt cover, which covers up the screen to keep anything in here from scratching up your screen. And then on the top side, we even have a little zip pouch so you can put accessories in here, like maybe a charger. And the cover also has little slots where you can put any physical cartridges that you bought for your Nintendo Switch. And now not only is your Nintendo Switch protected, but the grip inside makes it very easy to play games for a long time. Now, a lot of other cases and grips for Nintendo Switch 2 make the Nintendo Switch 2 too thick or too bulky in order to fit in a dock. But with the Zen Grip 2 from Satisfye, that's no problem. And I almost forgot to say that the Zen Grip 2 is now in stock and has 3-day shipping options available. If you want to get yours for 10% off, use code NerdNest at checkout. Again, NerdNest at checkout gets you 10% off. And a huge thank you to Satisfye for sponsoring this episode. Now, back to the show. Now, I have to admit there is one drawback to devs focusing so heavily on the Nintendo Switch 2, and that's because it uses NVIDIA hardware, and pretty much everything else in the handheld space focuses more on the AMD side of things. Why would this matter, you might wonder? Well, because of upscaling technologies like DLSS and FSR. If you look at the number of people who are buying Nintendo Switch 2s and you compare that to the number of people who are buying handheld PCs, there's a lot more people that are going to be using NVIDIA chipsets. And because there's a lot more people that are using NVIDIA chipsets, that means that developers are going to need to target those and focus more on DLSS instead of things like FSR. But hopefully the workflows are similar enough that devs are able to easily translate the efforts that they make on the Switch 2 to the efforts that they make over on PC. Does that make sense? Let's talk about the numbers. The Nintendo Switch 1 took 9 months to ship 10.4 million units. The Switch 2 did the exact same thing in just 4 months, because the data that we're looking at that was released by Nintendo today is as of September 30th. So it was just in 4 months. And I gotta be honest, the Wii U having shipped only 14.7 million units in its entire lifetime of sales worldwide, I fully expect the Nintendo Switch 2 to outsell the Wii U in maybe by the end of this year. In fact, Nintendo has been adjusting their projections, and they've said that they expect to sell 19 million Nintendo Switch units by the end of this fiscal year. And for those of you that don't know, Nintendo's fiscal year runs from April 1st until March 31st. So at the end of March 31st in 2026, Nintendo's saying we're going to have already outsold the entire lifetime sales of the Wii U with Switch 2. But it's not just the Wii U that Nintendo is going to be outselling. I mean, that shouldn't be a huge surprise if they outsell the Wii U. Like I said a minute ago, it didn't do very well. The PS5, when it launched, only sold about 7.8 million units at the 4-month mark. Now, that might sound like a terrible number, but you also have to keep in mind those things were incredibly hard to come by because of when the PS5 and the Xbox Series X launched. But let's go back to the PS4. The PS4, which was a very popular console, that sold less than 10.4 million units in 4 months. It sold 10.2 million units in just 4 months. This further cements that Nintendo is absolutely killing it. So why is the Switch 2 selling so well right now, especially because its launch lineup is pretty weak? Well, the Switch 1 was insanely popular. I mean, it's probably going to be one of the best-selling systems of all time. Hell, in the amount of time that the Switch 2 sold 10.4 million units, Nintendo also sold 2 million Nintendo Switch 1 units. That number is absolutely crazy to me. But with all of those Nintendo Switch units out there, a lot of them were playing games that just kind of ran like crap because the Nintendo Switch hardware, the original Switch, was outdated hardware at launch. The Nintendo Switch 2 is way more powerful, and a lot of games just run better on it out of the box. So when you're playing Nintendo Switch 1 games on a Nintendo Switch 2, you do get a boost in performance. And I know that there's going to be people that say, well, Bill, but you got to pay for that, right? Yeah, but the number of games where you have to pay for Switch upgrades are fewer and far between. Most of them just run a little bit better. They're not all going to run a little bit better, but most of them will run a little bit better, especially the ones that were really throttled by the hardware's shortcomings. I think that's a better word to use. Another reason that I think Nintendo Switch 2 is selling so well is because the graphics these days, they just don't matter as much as everybody seems to think. I mean, look, I have watched trailers in the past and looked at them and said, holy cow, that game looks absolutely amazing. I want to buy that game right now because the graphics just look so beautiful. But then I play games like Animal Well or Slots and Daggers. And when I play games like that, I don't care about the graphics. I care more about the gameplay. Gameplay is king. And that is something that Nintendo has known for a very long time. And they absolutely 100% proved when they shipped the Nintendo Switch and that thing flew off the shelves in spite of being incredibly underpowered and most games looking like garbage on it. And then the final reason that I think Nintendo is selling so well is because the other handhelds in this space are far more expensive, with the exception of the LCD Steam Deck. The LCD Steam Deck you can still get at about $400, but for everything else, it's more money than buying a Nintendo Switch 2. I know that there was definitely some sticker shock when Nintendo announced the price of the Switch 2, and a lot of people were very irritated by that price. But I'm here to say that I always thought that that price was perfectly fine. My gripe with the prices from Nintendo was way more to do with $80 games and upgrade fees and things like that. And when you take the number of Nintendo Switch 2s that Nintendo sold in just 4 months and you compare that with all of the sales of every single handheld PC that is out there today, you're probably getting an equivalent number. The problem is that it took handheld PCs years to hit that number, and it took Nintendo just 4 months. And it might sound like I'm saying that that's bad for handheld PCs, but I'm not. I think it's exciting for handheld PCs because devs are going to be focusing on getting things running on the Nintendo Switch 2, which is a low-powered system, and then porting those games to PC. And then when they're on PC, they're going to be able to run on low-power PCs, not just like handheld PCs, but all low-power PCs. But what do you guys think about Nintendo Switch 2 selling 10.4 million units in just 4 months? I think these numbers are crazy. I would love to hear what you guys think about them. And don't forget to pick up your own Zen Grip 2 from Satisfye. This thing makes gaming on your Switch in handheld mode so much better.